This time on ChinnyVision, we're calling in the plumbers. It's Super Pipeline 2. Super Pipeline 2 is a 1985 game from Taskset, released on the Commodore 64, the Amstrad CPC and the Sinclair Spectrum. It is a follow-up to the original game Pipeline. Got some nice presentation here with the Super Pipeline 2 screen there, and as you can see, this is level 1. So it's drawing out the pipe here, and what you've got to do is you have to defend the pipe against these little kind of tools and things that are going to make holes in the pipe, which are going to make the water leak out. The aim of each level is to fill the barrel at the bottom of the level whilst defending the pipe, and if there are holes in the pipe, you use the workman to repair the holes in the pipe. And the level is complete when the barrel of water is full. It's a fairly simple concept. We've seen this kind of thing in other games, but the level of presentation is quite good. Got a nice celebration thing going on there, and also an animation with the Sinclair C5. Remind you of those little animations you used to get in Pac-Man. So here we're on to level 3 now. A little bit more complicated, different things going on. You've got to avoid the tools and things going around the pipes because they can kill you. They can also kill your little workmen that help you. You've got to gain control of the workmen by brushing past them. Otherwise they just aimlessly walk around. Haven't got any breaks in the pipe yet, although we're still shooting enemies. Some enemies react differently to being shot, in that some of them you can only shoot from behind. Some of them can be at times immune to your bullets. You can also sacrifice your workmen to the baddies if you're unable to shoot them, because your workman will die, but also the baddie will die when it hits the workman. We've got one of the workmen there mending the pipe. He's done that there and he's been knocked off and died, and then I'm dead as well. So it's game over. There's some nice tunes as well going on in the background, nice sound effects. Level of presentation is really high on the Commodore 64. Super Pipeline 2 was also released on other formats. The Amstrad version of Super Pipeline 2 was released by Amsoft, although it was rushed out onto budget just a year later in 1986 by Mastertronic. Really similar to the Commodore 64 version here. In my opinion, nicer sprites and also a little bit more attention to detail. You can select how many lives you want. There's up to 8 lives. There's a nice menu screen there. You can define joystick or keyboard. You've got the 1 or 2 player options. The nice level of control there. The Amstrad version is quite nice. It does have these nicer sprites, and it's just a little bit more colourful than the Commodore 64 version. It does suffer from a little bit of flickering. I had the Amstrad version back in 1985 and I know it well. I've also made myself very familiar with the Commodore 64 version for this review, and I think the Amstrad version's had a few refinements in the gameplay. Some of the levels are slightly differently laid out. Here on level 1 there's just a little bit of a difference how the baddies enter from the right hand side rather than down from the top. You've got different animations at the end of each level, but mainly it's the same game as the Commodore 64. The gameplay is a little bit slower. There seems to be just a little bit more refinement, as I say. You can't really put anything between the two versions, in my opinion. They're both fantastic and both good in different ways. They both take advantages of the strengths of the machines. The Amstrad's enhanced colour palettes here, for example, just gets a little bit more colour and life into the game. You can see this crab baddie that was going around the screen just then. You can only shoot him from behind, for example, which means you've got to tactically approach how you're going to deal with him. The other thing is, that we've run out of water now. So now, instead of the game ending, it's actually deducting points from my score. So I'm continuing to play and continuing to get water, but I'm going to get a worse and worse score if I don't fix this pipe soon. Really nice tune on the AY chip here as well. Similar to the SID version, not quite as beefy, but usual kind of thing really, with the differences between the systems. On to level 10 now. Obviously I'm using a cheat. It's quite difficult to get this far in the game. Quite complicated, quite hair-raising now in terms of gameplay. I think I've only ever got as far as level 7, and considering I got this game in 1986, that's 28 years of trying, really. The Spectrum version is, well, to be honest, not terribly good compared to the Commodore 64 and Amstrad versions. It's alright. If you had a Spectrum back in the day, you probably could have tolerated it. But in 2014, the Specky version only really has curiosity value. I can't really pick out between the Commodore 64 and the Amstrad version of which one I'd recommend. Personally, I'd go for the Amstrad version, but I know a lot of you will say, no, we prefer the Commodore 64 version, and that's fine. Whichever version of those two you prefer, then fantastic, because Pipeline 2 really is an arcade quality game that stands up in 2014 as a good example of fantastic gameplay, of really well thought through game design, and it's a game that really is worth revisiting today.